The year was 1976. American inventor Ray Kurzweil invents the first reading machine, leading the way for text-to-speech tech to help those with impairments. Martin Scorsese released the blockbuster hit movie Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
Which was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. It had won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival.
People too cheap to rent a hotel room.
As some sort of a sick joke, on April 1st, Helter Skelter premieres on CBS.
There's not an attorney in the world who can represent me as a person.
Oh, and Warner Communications acquired Atari for $28 million September 7th, still 1976. With this newfound funding, Atari started to hire some new hands to help create their first ever home console, the Atari 2600. Of the new talent hired by Atari at the time was an American designer and programmer known as Larry Kaplan, who joined the team in August. Larry had a hand in creating what is today known as the Air-Sea Battle, or if you're from the rough, tough streets of Sears, Target Fun. Larry admits his game was based on a popular arcade game at the time called Anti-Aircraft, and another one called Destroyer. Larry has stated that in those days we just ripped off anything that we could make work. Unlike those arcade machines, however, Larry's creation offered 27 games in just one cartridge. Air-Sea Battle was promoted as one of the titles available at launch.
Atari's new Air-Sea Battle is more fun because it's just like the real thing. Only there.
Along with 8 other titles which we will be going over in detail at a later date. As mentioned before, Sears had this game bundled with the Atari under the name Target Fun. The game would remain on the market until at least 1988 and was re-released on the other platforms with minor improvements. It appeared in the Atari 80-in-1 for Windows, the Atari Anthology for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, as well as being in Atari Greatest Hits for the Nintendo DS, and was included in the Atari 50, the anniversary celebration, for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, and on Steam. It has also won an award in 1980 for Best Target Game. But what would you get with Air-Sea Battle? Well, I'll tell you. You had 6 different game types, which included anti-aircraft, torpedo, shooting gallery, Polaris, bomber, and Polaris versus bomber games, respectively.
I quit soccer to play Atari.
You need more practice, Haley.
Games 1 through 6 are anti-aircraft games, where you are in a fixed position and able to aim at 30, 60, or 90-degree angles. The objective of these games is to fire at and destroy the flying obstacles, which are either commercial aircraft, helicopters, big jets, or small jet planes. Each target you hit is worth 1 point, while in games 4 through 6, the different aircraft have different point values, with commercial planes giving 1 point, helicopters giving 2, the big jets giving 3, and the small jets giving you a hearty 4 points. There are also these balloons that give you 0 points that the manual calls observation balloons, but it has an A on the front. I don't understand. Once all of the aircrafts on screen are destroyed, they will reset. Whoever gets the highest amount of points at the end of the time, which is decided by the player, wins. Each game has a little bit of variety to it. Game 1 is pretty normal, point and fire. In Game 2, you're able to control the projectile after it is fired. In Game 3, you are in a fight against the computer as it continuously fires. You have to try and outscore it for however long you decide to play. Games 4, 5, and 6 are the same as the respective games 1, 2, and 3. Only difference being the different values for the different targets. The next set of games are called torpedo games, where this time you get to move, but you only get to fire in 90-degree angles. This time around, instead of an anti-aircraft gun, you control a submarine, and instead of shooting planes, you're shooting ships. In games 7 through 9, once again, your targets only score you 1 point, regardless of size and speed. Games 10 through 12 will give you different values based on the size and speed of the target you hit. Speaking of targets, there's a whole new list including a freighter, a pirate ship, an aircraft carrier, and a PT boat. Just like in the last group of games, there's another sort of observation balloon. This time in the form of a mine. In games 10, 11, and 12, you have the same numbering system as games 4, 5, and 6. The same variations in games 1, 2, and 3 appear in 7, 8, and 9, as do the elements of 4, 5, and 6 in games 10, 11, and 12.
Plus, all the excitement of a Western shootout, all the fun of basketball, the drama of an air-sea battle, more games than any other video computer system. Atari, out-of-this-world action from your nearest stockist now.
The next set of games is under the title of Shooting Gallery Games. Unlike anti-aircraft and torpedo games, this type only has 3 varieties. But unlike those games, in this type, you can both move and aim in 30, 60, or 90 degrees. Your aim is to destroy all the targets in each set and get the most points. There are 3 different targets which all have different values. Shooting the clown awards you 1 point, while the duck gives you 2, and finally the rabbit, which gives you 3. Though if you ask me, I'd give 3 points for the clown instead, because they freak me out. Another new addition to this type of game is that the targets can change direction at any given moment. However, once again, in game 13, you can't move the projectile once it's been fired. In game 14, you are able to control the projectile once you've fired it. And once again, in game 15, you are up against the computer, trying to outscore however long you guys are playing. Our next type of game is the Polaris game, where you automatically scroll across the screen from right to left, and the targets scroll left to right. The exciting part about this game is that your projectile moves at the same speed your boat was moving. And look at that, it looks like some of our friends are back. The commercial plane, helicopter, large jet, and small jet. And all of them have the same point values as before. In game 16, you are unable to change the speed of your boat after you have fired your projectile. Game 17, however, does let you change the speed of your projectile after it is fired. And at game 18, the computer will continue at a steady pace while continuously firing, and you have to try to outscore it. And now we move on to the bomber games, where you control a bomber plane that will occasionally change directions. You must attempt to bomb the boats that are below you. Speaking of boats, looks like our boat friends have returned from the other game. Freighter, pirate ship, aircraft carrier, and PT boat. And once again, they all have the same values as the last time they had appeared. And much like our last type of game, this type has its projectiles moving at the same speed in which your plane does. In game number 19, you are not able to change speed after your projectile has been fired. In game number 20, you are able to change the speed of your projectile once it has been fired. And finally, in game 21, you're able to go against the computer while it continuously fires. Now, if you thought that was fun, I haven't shown you anything yet, because our last type of game is the Polaris versus Bomber. In this game, one player takes control of the bomber plane and the other controls the anti-aircraft boat. Both vehicles will occasionally change direction while playing, and it is the same where once you fire your projectile, you cannot change your speed in 22. Game 23, however, you can. And in game 24, the computer will control the plane dropping bombs one after another. You have to take out the computer before it takes you out. Game 25 is very similar to game 22. However, now there are added mines to the playing field. Similarly, you cannot change the speed of your vehicle once you have fired your projectile. In game 26, you can guide your projectiles around the mine to still hit your target. And finally, in game 27, you take on the computer as it fires projectiles at you while you try to evade and fire back. So, after playing this game, what would I personally rate this? I'd say a respectful 7 out of 10. It delivers varying game types. It was the earliest form of co-op games. And it was kind of one of the pioneering games. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this journey and celebration of gaming history on the gaming timeline. Please remember to like and share if you enjoyed the video, and if you learned something, go ahead and comment something. And if you would, just go ahead down there and give that subscribe button a click. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Talking to me? Then who the hell else are you talking? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.